All right, so we're going to change gears here a little bit, but since I have the running experts on the FF Uncensored with us today, so let's kind of talk about running a little bit. So let's say someone's a runner, and maybe they spent their summer doing a lot of training. They maybe did a few 5Ks, a 10K, a half, whatever their distance is. Like, what should the winter look like for someone like that? I know that next summer I want to kind of do this thing again. Like, what should I be doing in the winter time in order to make sure that I'm ready when the summer comes around?
Perfect. Our body always needs training cycles, so that we, just like the people who are preparing for the Olympics, they're in a particular cycle now to pinpoint to be at their peak on a certain day and time. Okay, we might not get that specific, but if you know that you want to be having a race coming up starting even in May, in the off season, what we encourage people to do is work on their mobility, getting the ankles as large a range of motion as possible, being able to extend that knee, be able to push off of the toes, really work on our posture, really work on our kinetic strength through the running cycle. So we should be doing a lot of works for biceps and triceps and keeping our chest up. We talk a lot about your pelvis being a 5-gallon pail of water, and we don't want that pelvis to tilt water out the front or out the back. And when we run, we have this whole cylinder there that includes all our breathing and our core muscles and our hips, and we can keep those hips more squared and in alignment. Then when we run, everything's efficient. Everything's going forward in balance, right to left, front to back, top to bottom. That's what the off season's for. So we should probably be in the gym, and we should be doing quite a bit of mobility work. That's different than static stretching. It's taking your body through a range of motion, but with breathing and with a proper posture, and then adding resistance to that. So that your legs always follow your arms. If you don't have good bicep, deltoid, trap, and pec strength to be able to hold yourself up and keep your arms neutral when you're running and in the proper position, they droop, so does your core droop, so your breathing gets shut off, your stride gets all wonky, and what was going to be fun doesn't turn out to be so much.
Right. I think a lot of people think about running as just like, it's just my legs, right? It's just my legs and in my breathing. But really, when we think about people that are really good at running, it is a full body. They are aligned, everything, their foot placement is correct, like everything from the ground where we produce power all the way to the top of our head. When that's aligned and in good position, we go faster and we go farther, more efficiently, with less energy, which is like ultimately the goal.
And I think the other thing is that then when we move into the season, the transition is so much smoother. If we're going to, the cardio work that we do at this particular point is not much higher than 70% of your maximum working heart rate, and you're working to be able to push that endurance a little bit more and learn that pace. So what we're trying to do is we're building a foundation so that when we get into the season and we start going through the cycle where we're going to push, maybe I'm doing like a 9-minute mile and training at that heart rate, but I'd like to race at an 8 or a 7.5-minute mile, then I do different things. But when I have that base and when I have that strength and that freedom of movement, making the transition to a faster pace, less likely for injury, and a longevity through your season, that you wouldn't have an overuse injury at the end of the season because you set such a beautiful foundation in the off season. So generally speaking, you're going to need 24 to 48 hours rebuilding time after these sessions so that your body has its chance to rebuild. And the focus should be as consistent, not quite as intense, but the work is very, very important.
So what would you say would be like an optimal training schedule for someone if they do have the ability to train most days of the week and they are a runner and they want to compete in 5Ks or 10Ks next summer? What would be like an optimal like training schedule or kind of training split for someone like that?
I like to split out the body and either push pulls or upper body, lower body. There's always arguments how that should go. But I think if you use a blend of them, you get the best of everything. So I like people to go in and do a nice little warm up, a good mobility thing, and then start with a 3-minute walk, and everything top to bottom, you're doing form check. And then I would get off it on the gray tartan surface. Then we do your general form drills. And if you'd like some of those, I can certainly have some of those posted. Just high knees, but what we call butt kickers, a little flip of the ankle, a high knee with a pushing out. Just trying to get the habit of letting that foot land right underneath you when you run, instead of that heel out there stymieing your stride each time. Those kind of things you can work through in the off season. So then what I'm doing right now is a lot of work for biceps, the front of my arm, the back of my arm, the deltoid. I'm trying to get to 25 push-ups. I can keep my chest solid. A lot of core work. Just every workout should include core work. And then the next time I come in, then I'll do the squats, the deadlifts, the lunges, either single leg or regular reverse lunge, or single leg deadlifts, or a regular deadlift, or a trap bar deadlift, so that the large muscle groups connecting the hip to the core that provide the power through the stride really get tested. And I don't want to walk out of there sore or hurt, but I walk out of there pretty shaky. And so that I can set a really good base of strength for the coming season.
And then do you add in runs kind of on top of that? Maybe like one a week, or?
Oh yeah. Then I start that base setting where I start, if I can run 15 minutes pain-free, that's kind of if you can run smooth and easy, then we go up 2 minutes every other week. Okay. Until you can run at, a nice, good, comfortable pace. See, can we get to those 30 minutes and be able to stay in the green zone or the 70% zone?
So if someone didn't have a heart rate monitor, how could they tell if they were in that zone?
Well, if you can sing Mary Had a Little Lamb, then you're probably right on target. If you'd have to sing it just a little bit like that, you're probably right on. Okay. And then one day, though, I do what's called a ladder, and I encourage people to do this because you don't want to get in a rut with your running. So then we do, it's kind of a hybrid tempo hit, or a high intensity. You walk a minute, so that's your minute number 1. Minute number 2, you go 3 to 4 tenths faster. And so each minute, up to the 5th minute, you either crank the speed up a little bit or your incline. And so that by the time you hit the 5th minute, at the end of that minute, you're pretty much out of gas. And then you bring it right back down and you spend a whole minute recovering. And then you work back up the ladder, you do 4 rounds of that, so that everything you're learning with your body as you're doing the weightlifting gets a connection to different varied speeds. But we want to be able to hold that nice top speed for a minute. Not if we don't want to tweak a hamstring, we don't want to pinch a hip or get a piriformis fired up. We want to be able to see where we stand.
So for you, it's kind of looking at strength train a few days a week, maybe 3 to 4 days a week, where that's a lot of your focus, and then a longer, slow distance day, and then more of kind of an interval, a little bit higher intensity type of running day, and that's a good structure for people.
I think if you did 4 days a week and you did 2 days of upper body, 2 days of lower body, and a fun freebie day of a long, slow distance. Right. And then on your weight days, throw in that 20-minute tempo hit. See if you can stay in that zone thing, because when you finish that zone, most of it will be in the 70%. Right. So that's the base you're setting. So yeah. Now, if you're working out at functional fitness, you'll know that when you're in team training, you're going to have some of that. Right. And so you don't want to be putting 2 full workouts in on your body. Right. So then you sit down with us, or Ashley or Trevor or myself or Jake is on it, just to where do these pieces go together in a week?
Right.
Because you do need rebuilding time.
Right.
And the more mature you are, for me as an older woman, I need 48 hours rebuilding time.
Yep.
So you just have to see, and then some people are carrying a lot of stress. You're carrying a lot of stress, you're not going to have that quick return for energy.
Right. Recovery just takes a little bit longer.
Yeah,
so yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into it.
And then dress warm when you're coming and going.
Yep. I think that's one thing we haven't really talked about much, but even with team training, it's cold out, and our body, like, it needs to transition into these different kind of phases. And so having layers, like when you do go into workout, have a sweatshirt, maybe a long sleeve, and then a t-shirt on. And so as you get warm, like, it's better to have you warmer going into the workout, and then you start to get a little bit of a sweat, then you can take a layer off, and then you get a little more sweat, you can take another layer off, rather than just trying to go into it cold. Like, you just take off the coat and have a t-shirt on, and you're trying to warm up just by moving around. So yeah, definitely dress in layers. I think base layers too are a little bit like underrated. People don't think about them as much, but pair of like long underwear or some like Under Armour tights, or like a long sleeve, a tight long sleeve, those can go a long ways in keeping you nice and warm when you're getting warmed up. And most of them breathe really well and they move really well, so they don't really restrict movement. And
then just throw on your snow pants when you head back out the door.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you go sit in that cold car chair.
Right.
After you've warmed up everything up your rear chain is been moved and warm, and then you go hit it with something cold. It's just not a good. It's not a good thing.
Yeah. So I mean, dress appropriately, warm up.